Hello everybody, welcome to part 2 of these 2.4 notes about linear equations. We're going to be talking about the slope of a line, which I have no doubt whatsoever is a review topic, but it really should be second nature at some point to be able to do this. And we have, of course, a formula here that the slope of a line is the change in y, which if you remember, this little triangle symbol is actually a capital Greek letter. It's a capital delta. The lowercase delta looks more like a D. Lowercase delta is like this one, but capital goes like the triangle. And so delta there, whenever you see that in kind of like mathematical or scientific terms, it always means change. So this means the change in y over the change in x, and that's how you find the slope between a couple of points. We can use the formula, it's no problem. It can sometimes be a little bit of an issue making sure that we keep the same order, that if you're going to do y2 minus y1, then you better do x2 minus x1. This actually is the same thing, by the way. If you reverse the order, there's no problem in doing y1 minus y2, as long as you make the x's be the same x1 minus x2. That would be another way to do it, as long as you keep the order straight with the top and the bottom of this fraction. I want to think about doing it a different way though. So for this line, we need to find a slope of a line that's going through these 2 points. And the slope of this line, we can do it with the formula, but I just want to plot here. I'm not even going to plot axes because I want to think about just kind of floating out in space. There's this point that's like -2, 3. And so whenever we're going to plot this other point that goes 1, -8, of course 1 is to the right of -2, so maybe it's coming, depending on how much we want our graph to be spaced out, 1 maybe is over here. I'm just thinking in general terms, and then we want to find -8 with respect to 3, so it should kind of be very low down here. And we will call this the point 1, -8. I'm just doing this as a way to avoid using the formula all the time. If it gets just too tedious to kind of use the formula, it shouldn't be too bad, right? Because it's just doing a little bit of subtraction and stuff. But here I want to be able to do it even faster, that we can find the slope just by doing the change in y over change in x. So when I'm looking at these points, instead of actually subtracting them, I just kind of think in my head, the change in x. Okay, the change in x is how much you have to move to go from -2 to 1. And to get from -2 to 1, if you kind of think on a number line or whatever, you need to go over by 3. And of course that's what you get by doing the subtraction anyways, but I just wanted to be able to come up with the slope right away. So we see that if you go over by 3, you will get from -2 to this point over here, which is 1. And then to get from 3 to -8, which is going to be our change in y, we need to think how far down do you need to go to get from 3 all the way down to -8. Well, you need to go down by 3 to get to 0, and then you need to go down by 8 more to get to 8. So you can see that you need to go down here by 11. And since it's down by 11, that's why we put -11. So we went down by 11 and to the right by 3 just to get from one point to the other. This was to the right by 3, and to do the y's we went down by 11. And so we can just get the slope right away, -11 over 3, looking at these points. And then this is something also that we need to get nailed down once and for all, is this idea of the slope of a horizontal line. What is the slope of a horizontal line? You have to think about it. Do you ever confuse it with the slope of a vertical line? Do you have trouble remembering which one is which? I know that it's possible, but here the slope of a horizontal line, in particular we're talking about the line y equals 4. So if you just think about what that line is, it's this line here. I'm calling this y equals 4 right here. This is y and x. Y equals 4, you can just pick any 2 random points on there. And if we want to find the slope, we need to do the change in y over change in x. And so these points, it doesn't really matter which points they are. I would just call them A and B. Those are the x values. And then the y value obviously is 4 because it's on the line y equals 4. So since the slope is going to be change in y over change in x, we need to do first in the numerator here the change in y. Well, how much does the y change from one point, this point here, to the other point? Does the y change at all? Of course it does not, because the y keeps on being 4, so the change in y is 0. There's no change. And then you will realize it doesn't matter what we divide by. I mean, it matters that it's not 0. We're not allowed to divide by 0. But the change in x between these 2 points is not 0. It's just something else. It's some positive value. In particular, the change in x is just b minus a. But since we did not divide by 0, it's perfectly fine, and the answer is just 0. 0 divided by anything is going to be 0. And so the slope of a horizontal line is 0, because the change in y is 0. What about for a vertical line? This one goes the line x equals -3. So 1, 2, 3 over here. This is -3. And so x equals -3 is just this vertical line over here. And in the same way, this slope, we would find it by doing the change in y over the change in x. But you'll see that if you pick 2 points that are along this line, the change in y, it's going to be something positive or something negative, depending on which value you want to do first in this kind of a subtraction or whatever. Actually, what I mean to say that's important is that it's not 0. This change in y, something up here that's not 0, so we can just call it whatever, maybe c. And we have in particular that c is not 0. The change in y is just something besides 0 between 2 points there. The change in x, though, that's what's important about this one, is that between 2 points on this line, the x value is going to just remain -3, so the change in x is 0. And we are not allowed to divide by 0, so this one is undefined. We get no definition for the answer of something divided by 0. It is an undefined thing. So that is the slope of a vertical line, is undefined. Very good job. Thank you guys for watching this video. We're going to pick up in the next one talking about the last 2 forms of a linear equation that we're interested in, which are the point slope form and also slope intercept form. And then we'll try graphing them, etc. And it's going to be a lot of fun, so I hope to catch you guys there. Thanks, bye.